Everybody, it's Molly Yeh from Girl Meets Farm, and today we're going to be making one of my favorite breads from scratch, my Seeduction Challah, which is a rich whole wheat bread that's loaded with seeds. So if you're baking along with me, clear out your seed cabinet. I'm going to show you how to make the dough, shape it, bake it, and then we're going to dig in. If you've never made challah before, you're in for a real treat. And if you need to sub out some different seeds, don't worry, that part's flexible. Okay, so to get started, let's proof our yeast. Grab 3/4 of a cup of warm water. Warm water is the best for activating your yeast. And so if you're using a thermometer, get it between 105 and 110 degrees. Or you could just stick your finger in, and if it feels warm, then it's probably fine. Now grab your yeast. We're gonna use 1 packet of active dry yeast, or if you're scooping it out of a jar, use 2 1/4 teaspoons. Sprinkle this into your water. And then also add a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar because yeast loves sugar, so it's just gonna eat it right up. I'm doing this to activate my yeast, making sure it's all ready to go because that's what's gonna make our bread rise and get nice and fluffy. Okay, give it a swirl and then set it aside while it gets foamy. It'll take about 5 minutes. Now we're gonna mix up our dry ingredients. So get your biggest bowl or the bowl of a stand mixer and add 2 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. And keep this all-purpose flour nearby because we're eventually gonna need it to dust as we knead our dough. And then 1 3/4 cup of whole wheat flour. Okay, we're also gonna add 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm using regular granulated sugar here, but you could also use brown sugar. And then 2 tablespoons of millet. Millet is a whole grain with an excellent nutty flavor. And this is gonna add really nice crunchy texture. Challah is a traditional Jewish bread that's enriched with eggs and sugar and oil, and the best challah loaves have the most amount of sugar and oil. So that's why we're adding sugar to this. Okay, now over here I'm gonna add a bunch of seeds. I've got pumpkin seeds. I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of those, and I just love the color of these. And then I'll add 2 tablespoons of sunflower seeds. I love how sunflower seeds kind of taste like peanuts. And then 2 tablespoons of flax seeds. Flax is everywhere around here. There are so many flax farmers, so we just get it from our farmer friends. And then 1 tablespoon each of poppy seeds and sesame seeds. Poppy seeds bring in a nice kind of fruity flavor and add textural variety. And this is why it's called Seeduction Bread, because of all the seeds. And I just love all of the different colors of the seeds together. It's like kind of an earthy rainbow vibe. And if you're out of one of these seeds or you don't have them, you can just leave it out, or you can sub in 1 seed for another seed. You're not gonna ruin this. And then you're also gonna add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt to this. I've got my tablespoon here, I'm just gonna eyeball it. Okay, now if you're using a stand mixer, you can just hook this in. And you wanna make sure that your stand mixer has a dough hook fitted with it. If you don't have a stand mixer, you'll just be able to mix it with a big wooden spoon. But before I mix it all up, I'm gonna mix up my wet ingredients. Okay, so grab a medium bowl and then 2 eggs. And then crack your eggs into the bowl. Whenever possible, I like to start by cracking in my eggs for the first thing in the bowl, because that way if any shell gets in it, it's much easier to fish it out. Next, add 1/3 cup of a neutrally flavored oil. So canola or vegetable is what I usually use. And this is gonna make the bread nice and moist. Pour that right into the bowl with the eggs. And then get 2 tablespoons of honey. And I love the honey flavor that this adds. You could also use molasses with this. That would be so good. Like the dark molassesy flavor with the whole wheat flour. Now whisk this mixture up until it's combined. Okay, so now we've got our 3 mixtures prepared. We've got our dry ingredients, our egg mixture, and our yeast mixture, and now we can combine them. So the first thing I want you to do is pull down your stand mixer and then just give it a few mixes so that all of those dry ingredients combine. And again, if you're just using a bowl and a big spoon, just give it a good mix. And then you're gonna add your egg mixture. And you can just scrape it in with a spatula. And then the yeast mixture, which at this point should hopefully look a little like this, foamy at the top. Now turn your mixer on low and mix it until everything starts to incorporate. And then once it's coming together in a shaggy dough, you can increase the speed. The dough hook here automates all of the turning and folding action required to knead the dough. Just proceed with caution. You don't want to pump it up to high immediately, otherwise flour will go flying everywhere. Now, whether you're kneading by hand or with a stand mixer, you're gonna knead for 7 to 10 minutes until you have a smooth and slightly sticky dough. Okay, so if your dough is sticking to the side of your bowl, you can dust it with a little bit of all-purpose flour. Be careful, you don't want to dust it with too much flour, otherwise you could end up with a dry challah loaf. Okay, this dough is looking great. Your dough should look pretty smooth and not too lumpy. And it should just be slightly sticky when you poke it like that. Okay, now fold it into a ball just by stretching the ends around. Look at that beautiful piece of dough. Okay, now, if your bowl from your stand mixer is clean enough, you can just let your dough rise right in that. Add a little oil to the bottom, and this will prevent the dough from sticking. You just need a drizzle. And now zhuzh your dough around, and then flip it over so that it's evenly coated on all sides with the oil, and then cover it with either plastic wrap or a towel. Okay, now let this rise for 2 to 3 hours or until it's doubled in size. And while this rises, I'll just tidy up. Okay, let's check on our dough now. This looks great. It's doubled in size. And now turn it out into your clean work surface. And you can grab a knife or a bench scraper. Today I'm just gonna be baking off half of the loaves. And then the other half I can keep in my fridge and bake off tomorrow. And the flavors will just get better. And now I'm gonna make 2 medium-sized loaves. So I'm gonna divide this in half. So just roll out a long, skinny snake. Traditionally, challah is a braided bread, but around the Jewish New Year, we have it in round loaves. So that's what I'm making now. And this should feel really soft and doughy and just fun. And you can apply a decent amount of pressure as you're rolling this out. The dough can take it. You want to try not to overwork it, so really get the most out of every time you roll it. Okay, now once you have a nice long skinny snake, you just swirl it up. So start at one end and coil it around. And this is gonna bake up and rise and puff up so beautifully. And then just stick the end, you can kind of tuck it under so that it'll stay just like that and make it look kind of like a snail. It's so cute. Okay, I'll set this aside and do the other one. And so again, you're just rolling it out into a long skinny snake and applying a good amount of pressure so that you don't have to roll it out too many times. Okay, and this is looking good. So again, just start at one end and roll it up like a snail. And this is possibly the easiest round loaf you could make. And the prettiest. You're getting the hang of this, right? Okay, and then at the end, just tuck this last bit underneath so that it stays. Give it a little pat, And that's it. So now I'm gonna grab my sheet tray and also some parchment paper. Place them evenly spaced on your sheet pan. You don't want them to be too close because they will rise as they bake, and you don't want them to stick together. Now cover these guys, and now they're gonna rise for 30 more minutes. I think I'm gonna go check to see if I have any fresh eggs for my egg wash. This is their coop. Oh, the eggs look so good. Okay, now we're gonna make an egg wash, which we're gonna brush on top of the loaves, and that'll make them shiny and also help the seeds on top stick. So just crack an egg into a little bowl. Oh, look at how good that yolk looks. And then add a splash of water. And then whip it up. And an egg wash is just a beaten egg. I like adding a splash of water. It makes it easier to brush on. Now grab a pastry brush and uncover the loaves. Ooh, those are looking great. And now brush a layer of the egg wash all over. Just a thin coating of the egg wash will make the outside shiny, and then it'll also help some seeds stick to the top. You guys are gonna be bread baking pros. Okay, and now for the top, let's sprinkle on some more seeds. Grab your pumpkin seeds, your sunflower seeds, and your sesame seeds, and let's just sprinkle them right on the loaves. These will add even more crunch, and they'll just be really pretty. I love the green color of these pumpkin seeds. These loaves are gonna be so nice and hearty. I love having this bread just with a basic sandwich, or with an egg, or just on its own with some softened, salted butter. So good. These are looking great. And lastly, I'm gonna sprinkle on some sesame seeds. And you don't have to be shy with the seeds on top, because when these loaves bake, they'll rise even more, and then the seeds will spread out a little. So I like just piling the seeds on. Now your loaves are ready to bake. So bake these at 375 until they have an internal temperature of 190 degrees. It'll take about 28 minutes. This Seeduction Challah looks incredible. It's golden, it's brown, it's puffy, and it smells heavenly. Okay, now the best way to eat challah is fresh out of the oven by tearing it up with your hands. I'm just gonna go for it. You guys should too. It's hot. Here you go. It's so dense and nutty and hearty. This is a perfect challah for any occasion. I hope you guys are loving this as much as I am right now.